Hey everybody, gather round. HOS4A2's back in town. Talking horror, guts, blood, and gore. We know you're gonna scream for more. The podcast for the recently deceased. Monsters, mayhem, fear unleashed. It's podcast for the recently deceased. We are slashers, vamps, and goats at beast. Silver screens and cursed tapes, jump scares that will contemplate, special guests and spooky lore. Turn up the volume and lock your door. The podcast for the recently deceased. Horror nerds on your souls we feast. It's podcast for the recently deceased. So grab your steak and call a priest.
Hello and welcome. I had to match your mute intensity. Hello,
thank you.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast for the recently deceased. I'm the boss, HOS4A2, here with my host of Stephen Anthony.
Hey guys.
Tonight we will be discussing a Shudder original, 825 Forest Road, written and directed by Stephen Cognetti, the writer or the director of Hell House LLC, as well as 2 and 3 and the prequel, starring Elizabeth Vermillion, Catherine Miller, and Joe Bandelli, and one other person.
No, Joe Falcone.
Joe Falcone. Or Falcone.
Well, Falcone. Depending on how Italian you are.
Yeah. After a family tragedy, Chuck Wilson hopes to start a new life in Ashland Falls with his wife Maria and little sister Isabelle. But he quickly discovers that the town has a dark secret. I mean, that was a very, very vague as you could be. Doesn't give anything away. I kind of like that.
Cast a wide net.
Yeah, we're okay with that one, IMDb.
I actually like that that pitch line a lot.
That pitch?
Yeah, I liked it.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, I just watched it. Did you just watch it?
So, I watched chapter 1 in a toothache pain stupor-induced viewing session last night. And I watched chapters 2, 3, and 4 just about the same time you did. I finished maybe 10 minutes before you.
Sure. I have a lot to say. I'm gonna save most of it for after the review. I'm gonna say this movie was interesting. Like I felt like 15, 20 minutes in, I stopped being a viewer and I started being like a film student, and I was really just kind of like, oh, okay, I see what they did there. Okay, you know, I normally really love my immersion and I love to be along for the ride, but I didn't really feel like that with this movie. I feel like I was watching it, which normally I would say is a bad thing, but is not in this case, and you will find out why later. As far as a ghost story is concerned, the writing was solid. This is an independent film. The acting was better than some B movies out there. Definitely not, Hollywood worthy.
There is no Jeffrey Rush or John Lithgow level performance.
They are not present in this film.
Kelly Marie Tran did not coach any of the actors on set.
That's correct.
Sadly.
With all that being said, I really came out of the movie enjoying it. I have some questions, comments, concerns, naturally, and hopefully that's why you're here. 825 Forest Road. I give it a 5 out of 10.
Wow. Holy shit. Role reversal, kids. I give it a 4.
Whoa. All right.
I do.
Do you want to say anything before we go into spoiler town?
Yeah, I'll explain my 4. There are, I think you and I are going to agree a lot on where we're coming from, and maybe we just might express it differently. I feel the writing in this movie sometimes has levels of genius. I really, really feel they needed an editor. There are just 2 or 3 lines, and I'm like, no, this word should be that word. And so for me, in my immersion, I want to get immersed. I want to forget details. And where you became a student of filmmaking about 20 minutes in, they never got me in so that I could stop reverse engineering it. So, being a writer, that's something I wish I could turn off, but can't. But a good movie will turn it off for me. 825 Forest Road, so much I loved about it, which I will talk about when those moments come up. However, did not do it frequently or consistently enough for me to turn off the analyzer part of my brain.
And that's an excellent summary of this movie. That being said, a 5 from the Hoss and a 4 from the Claw.
A nickname which has followed me, by the way, to every Magic the Gathering store on the East Coast for the last 30 years.
We will be now moving into Spoiler Town, where we will talk indiscriminately about the finer details of the film. So if you have not seen it, stop now, go watch the movie, come on back and see what we had to say. Or if you don't care about spoilers, to each their own. We're not gonna.
But if something was spoiled, kids, don't worry. You're not going to be that mad at us about it. Don't worry.
Yeah. I mean, there's only really one twist, and it's not.
I love the twist.
Yeah.
I screamed out loud at the twist.
Yeah. They did some really great stuff.
They did some. It's like there's some things. Okay, so guys, spoiler. Go. Pause here.
Yep.
You're good? Okay, great. So the movie starts, and there are some wooden performances, and it is what it is, but nevertheless, it gets you invested. It didn't get me immersed, but it got me invested.
Right.
And it'll just hit some notes, very much like Chuck is a musician and a music teacher, and there are some notes where it's just part of the song is like great. You just want to turn the volume up. Like that Phil Collins classic, and you just want to like jam out. That happens 2 or 3 times in this movie. It's not a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination. It just, for me, and we could talk about why in the moments that it happens, it was missing money. It missed the director saying, okay, let's do that for one more take, because they were pressed for time. It missed the editing room, the guy giving a shit, and doing some extra special effects on the wife's sister-in-law / wife's vlog, because the money wasn't there. You didn't have time to give a shit.
Yeah.
So I feel an extra $100,000, and this movie could have been special.
Absolutely, especially as a B movie. I mean, like you said, 100,000, 50,000, just a little bit more money. With a B movie, you've got to deal with the acting that you can get, and you're shooting it in Ashland, in Tioga County, New York, or Tioga County in Ashland, New York.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it like a very nice, affluent part of upstate New York?
I don't know anything about it. I only just Googled to find out where it was because I saw the Tioga County grid maps book in the library scene, and I was like, Tioga County, that's in New York.
Yeah, that's not too far from us.
All right, Google, here we go. So, money. When I say the writing, I'm talking about the plot. The story of this movie was really, really good.
Excellent.
Really well thought out, really well planned. The plot executed in the right order. Like it was well done.
Yes.
Yeah. The dialogue, every once in a while, there was a line cringeworthy, just like oof, ooh, whoa. And then some of the acting, for the most part, was okay, like in the world of average. And then the same actor would go above average for a scene, and then below average for another scene, and you're like, you just killed it in the last scene. Why are you so stiff? So it was very uneven, and I would say that for all the main characters, they were all average.
For me, Isabelle was the shining star.
She was definitely the standout.
Of the other two or three stars that are in the movie, and she had a little bit less inconsistency. She had bouts of it.
She still had it.
That's why I won't. That's why I won't say that talent is missing from the acting roster. That's why I think it was time and money, because it was for me. It was the director not saying, "Okay, one more take."
Yeah, right.
And not being patient enough to get what he needed, and everybody knew it. And you're an actor, and all you want is one more take, always, ever.
Right.
You want one more shot at it, and so they know in the moment, I could have done this better. So that's that's probably going to be my critique throughout, because that's the why. We could talk about the individual what's, the examples that pop up, every 5 or 10 minutes in this movie, but just the cards, which I thought was a great, fun device that they used for the storytelling to tell things from different characters' point of view,
right?
Including the main character, Forest Road, which we'll get to when we pop up, because hello, simple solution at the end, but we'll talk about that later. Is if there was no scary music for Chapter 1, Chuck, a touch of scary music for Chapter 2, Isabelle, a bit more for Chapter 3, Maria, right, and then a nice heavy bass drum or whatever to get that like, oh shit is real now for Chapter 4, because you are invested by that point. And that, again, what would that have taken? 2-3 hours in the editing room of giving a shit?
Right.
Maybe a weekend. I mean, it takes me a weekend to make a video. That's 30 seconds. So whatever it would have taken, guys.
No, exactly. Whatever. Like there's a point where the producer's like, "You're out of money. You gotta send me the final version so I can push it." Especially in the indie film world. But there's also times where it's like, "Listen, motherfucker, I need another week with this thing. A week's not gonna kill you." But I'm sure they had deadlines, and I wasn't there, so.
So the director and writer's name, his name is Joe Cognetti. Is that correct?
Stephen Cognetti.
Stephen Cognetti, the other Stephen.
So who we're talking about here actually is in the movie. Joe Bandelli plays Julian, which I believe was he the art guy, or was he in the support group? Either way, he's the producer, and he produced all the Hell House movies. So we are. Okay.
What's his name? Because I want to look it up. I want to see his face. Because there was one guy in the Friends of Gardening meeting, which we're going to talk about.
Joe Bandelli is the producer. Who?
Oh, okay, this guy.
Yeah. Who was he?
Wasn't he the videographer?
Oh, he was the videographer at the end. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, he was the freelance videographer, which he was good, and he had the right instincts. Run for the fucking door.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was a guy in the support group that was also very good. But point being, what we're talking about is this movie has like 3 or 4 different production houses in the beginning and the credits, so that Stephen scrapped, clawed, and fought to get this movie made.
Right.
There was a little bit too much of that, and not enough of trusting your audience and taking the time and going over stuff with a fine-tooth comb. Because when you put a corporate machine like Disney or some other movie making house behind it, you got pencil pushing beatniks covering everything, and while they're mostly useless, they eliminate any sort of like bad verbiage or bad dialogue getting through without getting cut to the editing room floor.
Right.
They give time and patience. So I think this movie just needed time, patience, and about $100,000, and you would have had a 6 or a 7 from me.
Yeah, this movie very easily could have taken a turn to be a better overall film. I do have a question as we start, or as we get into this a little bit. What happened to the friend?
Natalie. So Ashley and Natalie are video conferencing, and Ashley's got the Tioga Power Grid book, and there's a knock at the door. And even though she's researching this, she's not scared at the knock at the door. She's scared that her parents, who are flipping out, which this movie does have a lot of similar DNA, but I'll talk about that in a second. So she flips out and she conceals all of her library research because it's bad to do your own research, kids. Only certain people do that. And so then she opens the door, and then, we see Ashley again later, which I thought was great. So it's not just, two pretty girls in the beginning of the movie, one of them gets killed. No, she has a nice spooky cameo in the library later, meeting Chuck, when the movie starts to build up and unravel at the same time. Whatever happened to Natalie, we don't know.
Right.
Very similar to Natalie.
Yeah, it was Natalie.
We never see Chuck and Isabel's mom, which if we had seen one flashback scene of her saying that line of these dishes aren't going to put themselves away.
Right.
That would have given us so much for an emotional hook.
Yeah.
One camera, one set, one actress.
It would have made the reading of the note a bong moment instead of just that's a weird note.
It was scary, and it was the movie. It was very indicative of this movie trying to do more with less, which is fine.
Yeah.
You don't show the shark in Jaws because you can't afford it, so you do more with less. But if you had just shot one actress one day, if you get lucky in 5 minutes, if you don't get lucky 5 hours,
sure,
it would have and just flash that back.
Yeah,
it would have given us the emotional hook.
Oh, and it would have been so easy too, especially later when you get the reveal of not Clark, Chuck. Chuck left home early, young, or like just as he turned 18 or whatever, and left the young Isabelle in the house with the mom, and so she could have been saying that to Chuck with like a young Isabelle at the table, like banging her silverware on her food plate, and and he storms out, slams the door, storms out, kind of thing, with her, yelling at him to put the dishes away. Like, it would have been so easy to just do something as simple as that, setting up all of this stuff that we're going to get later.
Or I would set the mom up as a nice, sweet mom that's saying a dickish thing in a very sweet way. So then now we automatically endear to her, and so that even makes the impact worse when now she says these dishes aren't going to put themselves away in an evil way.
Right.
It was noticeably lacking.
Yeah. Also, like, she dies in a car accident, right? And Isabelle is the driver, blames herself, so that's where her guilt is coming from through this film. And if we get these like loving mom flashbacks, that makes us even care about a character that you don't have to put a lot of time into.
So very similar to the movie that we reviewed last week, The Woman in the Yard, but with The Woman in the Yard, and there's also a car accident and the loss of life of someone that the character is very intimate to, in that case her ex-husband, or her late husband rather. That flashback gives us the emotional hook that we need throughout the entire movie. It was not missing.
Right.
Here it's missing. They tried to do it with dialogue, so they are telling, not showing.
Yep. The rule you must not break: show don't tell. If you can show don't tell. Always ask, is this too much exposition? Can I shoot a little bit more of scene 1 so I don't have to explain it even more in scene 3? That kind of stuff.
And this movie does hit a home run with the chapter devices, because we get to see things that are repeated, which comedy, when you do something as a callback, it's even funnier. Horror does the exact same thing, and so that's where this movie really hits those awesome notes. And so you didn't need that heavy ass exposition. And there are scenes where she is talking to her phone or some other
just a little digital tape, a little digital recorder.
A little digital recorder as a psychotherapist substitute, which is a nice device. If I was writing on a budget, or if I was writing for a budget, that might be something that I would easily and readily do. That being said, that scene wasn't bad, but just other moments. It's like you can't do that throughout the entire film. You have to put some meat on the plate.
Yeah. That's true. And to touch on the chapters, I loved it. Like the chapters, especially with the same characters, they don't often run over the exact same events like a few times. They often they branch out, and these characters did branch out, but they didn't branch out a lot. And the scenes we got to see from the other perspectives, they were exactly show don't tell. They perfectly filled in those gaps and gave us the escalation of scene one. Okay, Chuck's gonna go. We're gonna get a lot of backstory, and we're gonna get invested in Chuck's mission to find Forest Road. Okay, Isabelle's backstory. All right, we're gonna get the part two to their family story. We're gonna get a little bit of escalation on the horror side because she's having mental problems, and we're gonna try and blame that on some stuff. But we're also we said with the neighbor earlier that this entity kind of feeds on people with mental illness, so it's going to target her. And if it doesn't,
and he mentions Isabelle, and he doesn't mention Maria because he doesn't know about Maria's mental illness. All that is where the genius of the writing really shines through. I loved all that stuff.
Right, and then we get Maria's chapter, which is the full escalation of the terror. For a few reasons. One, she has the least to do between the beginning and the climax. Isabelle and Chuck both have a lot of stuff to do, and we get a lot of information. She doesn't have a lot to do. We just kind of she kind of goes and does this podcast, or her vlog or whatever, and right away there's horror elements. The statue is moving, and her sister's calling her.
Why would you bring that creepy ass fucking mannequin with you to the country?
Right.
Why?
It's her New York City roots, man. She loves that shit.
What's the wife / sister-in-law's name? What's her name?
The wife / sister, Maria.
Maria, why did you bring that mannequin, Maria? Answer me, damn it!
Yeah, that Maria was super creepy. Or that Maria, yeah, that mannequin was super creepy.
And the mannequin had a name too.
The mannequin's name
was it Martha?
Was Martha?
Was it Martha?
Yeah, it was Martha. Yep.
So since we're in spoiler zone, one of the most satisfying things, again, it's one of those notes of genius that this movie hits, when they're burning Martha.
Yeah.
Right after. It's none of that, we got this haunted fucking mannequin in the house. Let's weep about it. Let's talk about it. Let's pontificate. No, they burn the fucking thing.
The movie, although
so satisfying.
Yeah, although this is a supernatural haunting / possession style film, what we have here are some actual human beings with actual human brains that, when they are faced with the danger of a haunting, they burn the fucking mannequin. They're like,
burning is Chuck's way of fixing things, by the way.
Yeah. He's like, we're gonna find 825 Forest Road. We're gonna burn it down.
And Isabelle's like, what are we doing? We're gonna burn it down. It's gonna get Martha treatment.
Yeah, it's gonna get Martha'd. and literally the minutes after the event, Maria's still shaken. Chuck is standing there. We will be out of here tomorrow. Fuck, we'll be out of here tonight. Just let me make some calls.
So I'm so happy you said that.
Have you ever seen a haunted house movie? They don't even leave the fucking house. The credits roll, they still are living there. Like,
the one thing about not being immersed in the movie is that I was my grandmother yelling at the Wheel of Fortune contestant to buy a vowel. So at this point, I'm like, no, motherfucker, you can rent a hotel tonight. You can get out of Ashland Falls and rent a motel tonight. So then when he says that, I was like, yes.
Sorry.
No, go.
I actually had an eye roll when he said tomorrow. I was like, bullshit writing, just to stay in another night in the house, and he immediately follows it up with, fuck, we'll go tonight. I'll just make a call, and I'm like, all right, like that was That was pretty good, you guys. You saved it. You saved it.
A
Like
call
I said,
for your credit card company saying I'm expanding my limit. I'm getting 3 fucking people
yeah,
in a Hotel 8
yeah,
tonight.
tonight. Like once again, I wanted to rate it higher. I wanted it to be better. Like I'm watching this movie, going, "Oh, that was so good. It could have just been this much better. Like if only the 5 minutes leading up to it were this much better, that would have been even that much better." Like I just kept doing that over and over and over again.
Me too. And it's the same thing that plagued the directing and the writing and the acting plagued the cinematography as well. There's times when the pacing is too slow, and there's times when the pacing is too fast, and it's uneven, which is a perfect apt description that you gave it.
There were a couple moments where I was really into the non CG, the the practical, makeup and costume for I guess we could call her, what was her name? Helen.
Helen Foster.
Yeah, Helen Foster.
Yeah.
So,
Especially when Helen possesses Maria.
right. So
Her
when
nose is bleeding. There's
yeah.
that nice juxtaposition between the two chapters.
Well, also when she attacks, she kind of, she moved at whatever speed she moved it at, and they recorded it obviously, but they sped it up and they cut keyframes out so that it just like looked all choppy and like weird as she moved. So very, and it's kind of not an obvious, but it's
Very
it's an old
Pennywise
school...
in the basement attacking.
Yes, it was exactly that. Because the head moved from side to side almost instantly because they were cutting frames out, and it also made it look like it was really fast.
Yes,
yeah.
I think Stephen is an obvious fan of it and of horror movies in general. One of the things I observed is that this movie has a lot of similarities to Derry. Like if you want to get it and if you want to make it a series, it's almost like they replaced Pennywise with Helen Foster. So there was a lot that they could have done, and they have a huge menu to choose from. And now you're going to get 1 hour and 40 minutes, and you're going to select what you tell, almost with the plan to make parts either 2, 3, 4, and 5, or make the series with so much that you can go into. And then it became a matter of real estate. It's like, okay, what do we tell, when, and where? And if this movie had just gotten a scene doctor from the beginning, we could see, and we could still see that. This movie definitely is worthy of generating some fans, and it's definitely a stepping stone for the next project.
No,
and there's a lot here to dive into.
Absolutely. If I already wasn't a fan of the Hell House LLC, which once again I haven't seen any of the sequels, I would say that this would be a great first time out. This being like his 6th or 7th feature, including 4 Hell House movies. This might get him a little more well known, might get his name out there a little bit better. I feel like if you're in the horror scene, you should know Hell House LLC. It's a Shudder original, so maybe the Shudder cred or the AMC cred, will get him a push into something a little bit more mainstream, which I'd love to see. I will watch this guy's next movie based on this movie. Like I'm sure he learned a shitload
exactly
in making this film, because the Hell House movies, they're kind of chaotic, or the first Hell House movies, kind of chaotic and fun, and like a bunch of friends having fun shooting a horror movie. This was a film. This was not that. So he's definitely grown up, in style. So, Stephen Cognetti, once again, I would keep an eye on for his next work.
I agree 1,000%. If I had anything, to add to make it more eloquent, I would. But you nailed it. That's exactly how I feel.
Thank you. Okay, I want to talk about Chapter 4. Yeah.
Skipping 1, 2, and 3.
I mean, it's what I want to talk about. Like we could, we don't have a lot of short episodes. Maybe we should have a short episode. We've definitely glazed over 1, 2, and 3 already. And once again, as it's kind of indie.
The only thing I want to bring up about Chapter 1 is Joe Falcone, which I felt like Chuck. Yeah. I felt like the actor who played him, was he given bad direction where he was told to be wooden, kind of like the direction that the actors on Star Trek Voyager were given. Like, be boring so the aliens stand out. That's what I felt like the direction he was given, because he got better as the movie progressed. And I was like, oh, you are somebody I can give a shit about. You're not this. I mean, honestly, him and Martha are the same fucking wooden tool.
So I felt this way a lot about Lily Rose Depp's performance in Nosferatu, and I know you haven't seen that movie, so I won't get too into it.
Please
But I will say that every time she was just acting, I felt like she was reading from cue cards. But every time she had to turn up the, let's say, the emotional volume of a scene, she was great. When she was crying, she was great. When she was sexy, she was great. When she was violent, she was great. When she was just hanging out, having a conversation with other characters, I was like, ugh, she's, this scene sucks. It's like, I don't know. You know, so, and that's kind of how I felt about Chuck, right? So chapter 1, there was not a lot of emotional investment from his character, even, because it's a lot of exposition in chapter 1. You're getting a lot of the backstory, especially about the town, and he's going to the library, and there aren't any reveals yet. And yeah, through that whole sequence, he was very stiff. He was very much like, some lines it felt like he was reading, some lines didn't, but even so, they were all very emotionless. He was very, like you said, boring.
Oh, look, there's a stack of books packed up in an aisle of the library. That's fucking normal. Don't let me react to that.
Yeah.
Or I'm already getting inducted in this thing. I'm learning about Friends of Garden. Let me not react to any of this. Like, give me something.
Right. He barely even reacted to Ashley in the library.
Do you need me to call someone for you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I need you to call someone for your goddamn self.
Yeah.
Because you are not reacting to stimuli in an appropriate way.
Yeah.
I understand you don't want to give the movie and the plot away, but you can shit your pants a little bit.
He gets to the checkout to get some books, and he's like, someone put a pile of books in the hallway lane back there.
I've done that in the steward's bathroom when they ran out of TP. Yeah. Same emotion level, by the way.
Yeah.
By the way, just so you guys know, you ran out of TP in the toilet.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, you guys got a creepy ass fucking stack of books.
Right, and then he goes, plus there's a girl back there having some emotional problems if you want to check on her. And I'm like, really, bro? like this is, you moved into this place. You're doing the research, which means you've already bought in a little bit. So right. Isn't your curiosity piqued at this point? You're already checking out the books. If he wasn't checking out the books, I'd understand him walking past the crying girl and the stack of books. But he's already hooked. So he should be asking these questions. And
when the Friend of Gardening at the Friend of Gardening meeting that we only get one, so they just put all the exposition in every person's piece of dialogue.
Right.
And the actors are doing the very best they can with it. Some of them were damn near excellent. Some were a little bit more wooden, but like you said, we deal with what we got, and the next project is going to be even bigger and better because of this learning curve.
Exactly.
All that, yes. When the guy says, once it gets in you, you can move out all you want. It's in you, you're fucked. At that point, maybe Chuck, get a little scared.
Right.
Get home. Shit's unraveling with your sister and your wife. Get a little scared. If you're, and it's not because he's stoic. That's not who he is. There's a little bit of Jack from Lost, I can fix this personality type in his head.
Sure.
And all that stuff was great, but
this guy's a musician. Not only a musician, he's a pianist and a teacher. Where's the emotion? Where's the music? This guy was on mute.
And one of the best parts about Chuck came from Maria's his wife, right? I'm so sorry.
Maria, yeah.
I forget her name. There's a great scene in the gallery. I want to say chapter 3. Maria and Isabelle are in the gallery.
Yep.
There's so much they could have done there. Again, an extra week's worth of time. Show me Helen Foster in this piece of art, in that piece of art, in a piece of art that they weren't looking at. Just give me just 3-4 more shots, and you could have scared the ever-loving piss out of me.
Yeah.
You did it only once, and you know from John Lithgow popping up in Jenny Penn's history. I love shit like that. I love Pennywise popping up in the old history books. It has that DNA in there. Don't give it to me just once. Like you hit me. That's your. Keep fucking hitting me again and again and again, please and thank you. And that was missing. But in that scene, Maria starts to chuckle, and Isabel's like, "What?" And she says, "Oh, the way you refer to art is how Chuck refers to music. If you keep absorbing something over and over and over again, you'll notice something." And I'm like this. The 100th time you watch it or hear it, there's something hidden in there that you notice for the first time. That makes it so much better. The best piece of Chuck's personality came from his wife in a scene that he's not in.
Right. In exposition, we got to hear about it. We never got to see it.
Her telling was better than his showing.
Right.
I'm going to say that's a problem.
Yeah. No, exactly. Like he has the one student.
2. Doesn't he have 2? Doesn't he have? Oh no, he has the one student.
And she plays. She's very, she's trying to play the C major scale, and she's failing at it. And he's like, "Oh, I'm so refreshed to have a student like you, who's so new and young." And then she starts playing this enchanting like melody, which is also very familiar. I think it was Beethoven.
Helen starts playing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Helen does, right? So he's like, "Oh, why did you play so poorly before? Are you just faking me out? Are you trolling?" And he like turns, and she's standing in the kitchen with him, and she's like, "There's a woman at the piano." And they go out there, and the music stops, and there's no one out there. But
that's a student that he lost.
and she's like, "I should go."
And this question applies really to chapter 3 and 4. Chuck, how much did you put down on this house? Bonnie's a fantastic real estate agent coming over for the testimonial at the worst time ever. Like, bitch, you didn't fix the fucking leaks in the roof yet. You want a testimonial? You sold me a house with a leaky roof. Not to mention all the creepy, scary shit.
Not to mention all the suicides you didn't disclose, which is illegal, by the way.
So that Amityville bullshit. Like, dude, how much did you put down on this down payment that you're afraid to lose? $10,000 fucking dollars?
Right.
Really?
Yeah, just stop paying the mortgage. Like, who gives a shit?
Or seriously, it's been a few fucking days. Put a stop payment on the check and get the fuck out.
Yeah. So there's got to be a lemon law on houses.
And that neighbor, what's up with that neighbor coming over?
Yeah, he was weird. He kind of had the role of the harbinger from like a slasher. He's there to just give some critical information at the critical time.
But never show up again.
Yeah.
Again, if I can just get a shot of him in a later chapter at his door, doing the Stephen King's It, old person knows but doesn't want to get involved, look away. That would have been creepy as fuck.
Or the he does this with his curtains and you see him and then the curtain just closes. Like, come on. How hard is it to just have a character look and then see that?
So on a set, right? On a set, you do not operate, in a linear fashion.
Right.
You shoot scenes 1 and 11 at the same time. If you have the actor there that day, you don't pay for him to show up another day. You get his ass to a different set, and you say, "Okay, now do me a favor, just peek behind these blinds, do this kind of creepy shit, and look away." This way you have the option to edit that in later and scare the fuck out of your audience with his creepy non-involvement.
Right, because and it was already set up to do something like that. When the first time he visited Chuck, he says something about being a neighbor, and Chuck says, "Yeah, I was starting to think this place was a ghost town. I haven't seen anybody." And he's like, "Yeah, we all kind of keep to ourselves because of the suicides." And you're just like, the suicide? Like, what? That's a segue. I'm paying attention. And it's just like, okay, well, look, this is the town, and the whole town is affected by this haunting. All right.
So a couple things there. I just want to say, I like that the town was haunted and not the house.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
it's like, okay, why don't you just leave the house? Because it's not going to fucking help. Why don't you leave the town? Well, according to the Friends of Gardening meeting, that's not going to help either.
Right.
Once you're fucked, you're fucked. So you have to deal with this. I thought that was fantastic. And B, all these stuff that we're talking about, I can't believe I'm about to say what I'm going to say. This movie would have been elevated by having Kathleen Kennedy on the phone. Not calling the shots, not Star Wars 8 Kathleen Kennedy, but Star Wars 4, 5, and 6, the original 3, on the phone, doing the accounting shit, making sure shit gets done the right way behind the scenes. They needed a boss. They needed somebody to answer to.
Right. Yeah,
wherever the executive producers were on the set, they gave their money and they
sometimes when you're a young director, or new director I should say, and you're in charge, you've got nobody around to tell you that your ideas are bad. It's like a group of potheads, like, you know what we should do? Yeah, that's what we should. And it's just like, no, you can't have that. You need a sober guy to stand behind you and smack you on the back of the head and be like, that's a fucking stupid idea. Don't do that. Do this instead. And this guy didn't have that.
This is not a shameless plug. Whenever I make a slightly shameless. Whenever I make a page for Dark Wake, I shoot it over to a friend of mine, and a woman that I met from my last job. She's become a very near and dear friend. She will call me out on my bullshit. When I know something is bad, when I know I didn't put the work in, when I know I didn't color correct or fix something, whatever, she was like, hey, this is great, but right over here, this is fucked up, that's fucked up. And it's like stuff that I know that's there that I hope people didn't notice. Of course they notice. You need a good friend to tell you this sucks. Or be more honest with yourself and stop producing shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on page 10, by the way, and I've already marked like 7 cells that I have to go back to just for color correction.
It's going to happen, and don't ever think, no matter what you're making, if it's a dark, scary graphic novel like Basement Media or Dark Close Studios, or if it's a movie, whatever your passion project is, when you know you're coming up short, the camera catches everything. So if it's a camera, or if it's a comic book page, or if it's a musical note, whatever it is, it's going to be received. You can hide it, and you can scrub it, and you can clean it, and you can fix it, and you can correct it, but don't just leave it there and think, oh, this won't. It's going to get noticed.
Right. It's true. Speaking of getting noticed, Chapter 4.
Chapter 4, 825 Forest being the character.
Yeah, 825 Forest Road, the character. Mwah. Chapter 4.
Yeah.
Mwah.
Yeah. High note.
It was all worth it. Okay.
So good.
Just a little bit of notes before we start. So Chuck is researching to find 825 Forest Road. Everyone says you're never going to find it. Everyone's gone on this treasure hunt. No one can find 825 Forest Road, because at some point in the town's history, all the names of all the streets were changed.
In the early 50s, they were concealed.
All the addresses were changed, and all of the old stuff was seemingly destroyed, and no one has access to the old stuff.
Well, see, I don't know if it was destroyed, if it was sealed. If I'm following the history of the movie right, the 1980s council meeting, which was talked about in the Friends of Gardening meeting,
right,
they tried to get it unsealed. So that's like one pinnacle moment in time. In the 50s, they sealed it.
Right.
And what's great, the musical genius in this scene that hits that high note is Ashley's research in the beginning comes full circle. So it's not totally Luke showing up with Deus Ex Machina, I have the answer, right, and it feels completely foreign and bullshit. No, because Ashley was working on it. Right. So her creepy-ass cameo in the library now pays off even more.
Yep.
And she didn't die for nothing, because her research is about to bear fruit.
Right. So all Chuck is able to uncover is that his house used to be 15 Rose Lane.
A nice detail that Maria talks about. Oh,
yeah,
I like that better.
We should
put Rose in the mailbox.
We should.
So you're not going to think anything of this.
Yeah. Except for me, I thought, ooh, that's going to come back later. I was like, I can't wait to see how. So anyway, like that's just how I think when I watch a movie. So the friend Luke shows up, and Luke is trying to help Isabelle. Isabelle is also doing her own 825 Forest Road research.
So Luke is a virgin, and Isabelle could have kissed him at least once.
Yeah, okay.
Just saying.
Luke,
stop trying so hard, guy.
I'm actually going to give this movie cred for not doing, a meet cute and a relationship with the two single characters. It's such a trope in horror movies. It was refreshing that the only couple in the movie is the married couple that was married before the movie started. For me, you wanted to see that. That's fine.
At a certain point, especially in a movie like this, where at a certain point the good guy wins at the end, that gets annoying after a while. So a nice twist, a surprise ending is a nice change of pace. At a certain point, you got to give the audience something.
No, that's
and the
true.
way this movie ends with a infinite possibility for 825 Part 2, you could have given us something the way it ended because, of how it ended, I don't know. Yeah. I'm just saying. Listen, maybe Luke didn't deserve it. Fuck him. He wasn't even willing to do whatever to go to the house with them.
Well, I like that Luke stayed behind, so there was a witness for Maria's transformation. Besides the camera and the.
Can we talk about how great Bonnie's acting was in this scene? Bonnie and Luke.
Yes.
They're watching Helen on camera because it is Helen on camera.
Yeah.
Through Maria.
Yep.
And Maria is doing a 7 out of 10 job.
This is Maria's best performance. Is this scene?
Yes.
In the movie, the actress.
But could have benefited from everything that we already spoke about. So we're not going to beat that dead horse. But Bonnie and Luke's reactions, I thought they were fucking great.
Oh yeah. This was a great scene. This is also like the beginning of the end, and it's escalating until the end, right? And it does a really great job here because you have two things happening, and it's cutting back and forth. You have Helen revealing her side of the story in an interview that's supposed to be a plug for Bonnie's real estate agency.
Which would have been so much better if it wasn't so heavily expositioned. Is that even a word? In the Friends of Gardening meeting, because we knew all this already. So if we had gotten this the first time, if it was more vague, if you trusted the audience in the Friends of Gardening meeting,
a little bit more, trust them a little bit more.
Yes, get in the head of the people that you're talking about. Yeah. My wife Vivian, my husband Joe, whatever, said this happened to them, and then connect it later to Helen just saying it and then explaining it.
When Helen tells the story is when we finally find out.
It wouldn't have just been repeated, and it would have given the actress who played Maria's performance an even bigger notch in her belt. Just saying.
No.
The writing staff could have helped out the acting staff.
Exactly. And as good as the story was, and as good as the plot as it unfolds, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, was, these are a handful of those holes we were talking about that just could have escalated this 5 to a 7 for me, and maybe a 6 for Stephen.
It would have been great if but because the actor is just repeating information we already knew, if it was a reveal, that would have been like, you would
have got chills in that scene. I think if that was a reveal, you would have been like,
exactly,
her daughter killed herself because of the bullying, and then she killed the entire town council, and all the families,
If the Friends of Gardening meeting had set up a mystery rather than giving an answer, and then if Helen/Maria could have given us that answer, definitely would have been scarier. Instead, what they did was they saved all the mystery for Chuck and Isabelle.
So Chuck and Isabelle find the house relatively easily with the hunch of Luke. I would also say the deductive reasoning of Luke. Luke would make a great detective.
Yeah.
Because he definitely didn't have definitive proof of Forest Road, but it definitely just made sense if all the pieces fell into place the way they did.
I have one bone to pick with that.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Again, putting yourself in the mindset, and then the people in the movie are going to put themselves in the mindset. If you are hunting for 825 Forest Road, here's a fucking idea. Would you look, knowing that the borderlines have shrunk into town, would you maybe, I don't know, go looking in a forest just outside of town for 825 Forest? Maybe the house will even be marked with an 8, a 2, and a fucking 5 on its mailbox. Maybe,
yeah.
Because honestly, what did they do? They drove right outside of town to a forest with a road closed sign.
Yeah.
Guys, how hard are you trying?
Well,
I don't think your friends of gardening. I think your friends of gardening needs a treasurer, a minute keeper, and a president. Hey, I got a fucking idea over here. Since my wife just committed suicide and my daughter-in-law is hanging herself and asking me what kind of ropes look great around my fucking neck, let's get some urgency around this, huh?
Yeah.
Didn't happen.
Yeah, it is a little surprising that no one figured it out before Luke, but that shouldn't take away from Luke.
It doesn't take away from Luke, and it doesn't take away from Ashley's research that back in those days, when they did electrify the power grid, that they wouldn't think. That I love that part. I love that detail.
Right.
I thought that was fantastic.
Yeah. It was very smart. Like, there were some of this writing, I was like, wow, good job. Like, it was really good.
Yeah.
So yeah, Stephen Cognetti, if you've hung in there to get to this point of the episode, don't take those bad scores at the beginning as a neg. Like, you definitely rocked it.
Please hear the moments of genius that come through, because there's more than a few.
Yeah, we're not obviously we're not trashing on your movie. Especially chapter 4.
A little bit, but we're fans.
Yeah, we're definitely fans. So chapter 4, where Chuck and Isabelle make it to the 825 Forest Roadhouse. They're in the house. They're moving slow, investigating, because it has to keep cutting back to Helen escalating the interview as she reveals more and more of what happened back then. She wrote letters to the councilmen, to the family that bullied her daughter, and I think it was the family that bullied her daughter. So this is the fun part. This is the reveal, and this is the fun, and this is like part of the genius of the writing. Chuck finds, they split up, Chuck and Isabelle. Chuck finds a pile of letters. The first one he reads is the letter asking for mercy for her daughter.
We're being shown what was told before, which is great.
Right.
Because now it's real. We can feel it.
Yep.
We can see the handwriting. We can see the impression of the pencil or the pen against the paper. This part's great.
Then he picks up the envelope it came in, and 825 Forest Road is there as the 2 address.
Yes.
And I'm getting goosebumps again just saying it out loud.
Yes.
Like, I just got it. He looks at the return address, and it's 15 Rose Lane.
This is fucking
They're in
masterful.
the wrong place. They were looking for 825 Forest Road through the whole movie, and it was the wrong house. Their house was the right house. Their house
is so effing good.
He sees,
it's a genius. It's an awesome redirect. A fantastic
so
fucking reveal.
So good.
And you, in the audience, are going to experience exactly what Chuck is experiencing when he picks up. Because I see the envelope, and I'm thinking, okay, so what? So I'm being shown the outside of it. Who gives a shit? I'm about to give a shit.
Yeah.
In 0.8 seconds, when it gets closer, and the 2 address and the from address.
Yeah.
So good.
And the 15 Rose Lane was pretty innocuous earlier on, so it did.
Maria's awesome cover up.
Because of Maria, yeah.
We put a rose on the mailbox.
It hit really hard. It hit really well. It was an excellent turn. So he's on the landing, and he's like, "We gotta get out of here. We gotta go." And he understands the urgency because he knows Maria's in trouble, and she can't move.
Deep shit.
She can't move.
She's in.
She's in front. Isabelle's in front of a door, and she's like frozen, and she can't move, and she's like kind of crying, Yeah.
I love this scene.
And
Love it.
and so he sees that she's stuck there and just starts running. And this is the brother instinct, the older brother protective instinct. And this is the first time you feel real emotion from Chuck, and you're like, "Oh, he does love his sister. He's not just
he is a fucking human being.
He's not just cardboard." Oh, and he just runs down there, and then you see these black hands holding her as she's trying to get away from this doorway. And he grabs her and he pulls, and they pull back and they pull and they pull back, and they both get pulled in and the door slams shut.
So one of the things I love, one of the things that Heroes season 1 did right, that the rest of the show went off the rails with the writer's strike season 2, is they had a painter that painted the future. So in essence, that's what Isabelle is here. She paints the future or the past, or you could argue about that, but that's where the genius of this movie is, where she's painting herself in that creepy ass fucking corridor. If in the editing room, what I would have loved to see, and this is not just me complaining or nitpicking, if you give us 10 extra seconds, and yes, you are pushing the audience's attention span. I don't give a shit. Push it. It'll be worth it. In what would appear to be a boring scene, because first of all, it's not boring. When you're looking at all these drawings that she's made, if you let us just sit and stew in them a little bit while longer, because they are creepy as fuck.
I did notice she had the front of the house 825 perfect.
Because when they show that picture, they show that picture later on, that's when it hits you right here. That's where Stephen Cognetti is going to get greenlit for his next film, because that is fucking genius right there.
Yeah. And then it goes back to the interview, and she gets to the part where she's like, "My daughter," and then they're like, "Where's your daughter?" And she goes, "Dad!" she's just like, and you're like, "Whoa!" And then you get real, this real like.
She was a little pissed.
Yeah.
Helen was a little pissed.
And then, why don't you finish her up?
Okay. So I wasn't crazy about. I wasn't in love with her shouting "dead." I get it. It was Helen. And all the vengeance, but a great line. And again, it felt like a 7-3 split, or a 70%, 30% split, where they put everything on the Chuck and Isabelle side and less on the Maria Helen side. So that when she screams "dead," I get it, but I wasn't in love with it. Like I said, I really liked Bonnie and Luke's reactions here to the ever escalating crazy shit that was going on. The camera special effects during the blog that we see in chapter 3 were escalated in chapter 4, obviously. So again, that's where our monetary and time concerns come in, where they gave a shit for chapter 4, and they did that first, and then they, took care of the stuff in chapter 3 for the vlog, almost like an afterthought. And again, audience picked up on that. So, just that stuff. I wish it didn't stick out, but it just does. Yeah. It's just a craw in my side. It's like, son of a bitch. I wish that wasn't there. But again, all the stuff that the writers in the writing room for Derry get to sit down and hash out and work through and just make genius stuff that intersects. The same stuff can be done here for 825 Forest Road with a very genius redirect and reveal of the addresses. It was all fantastic. Oh shit. You're screwed because you're not in a haunted house. You're in a haunted town. Reveal, no, you are in a haunted. You're in the haunted house that's haunting the town. It's your fault, fucko.
Yeah.
So much good stuff.
Revealing that Helen Foster's house was the 15 Rose Lane house and not the 825 Forest Road house was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
And the 825 Forest Road house being the parents of the bully.
Ground
bully.
zero.
Yeah, was because she killed them, right? She killed the parents of the bully. She killed the town, all the town council members, right? She killed the bully herself, according to the story. Which is, okay, so an adult killed a child for bullying her child. That's fucking epic.
That's illegal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all murder is illegal, but
just to be clear, guys,
adult child murder is worse.
It's
The
bad.
stakes are higher, right? The stakes are higher.
But you know what? Let's talk about that for a second first before I lose the thought. When I say the 70-30 split, Chuck had a great line when he's approaching the house, and he says, Helen's gotten revenge 100 times over. So that's great. There's the parents of wherever Freddy's from going to get revenge against Freddy, and they get their revenge, and now Freddy's coming back to haunt them. This is somebody saying, Freddy's gotten that revenge 100 times. You know what? It ends now. We're killing this prick.
Right.
So, you know what? He's tired of this shit. He's killing Helen. He's done. So I thought that was absolutely fantastic. And Haas, what was your second question? Because just so I made sure I didn't lose the first part, I lost the second part.
I already forgot everything that we just talked about.
So, guys, check out 825.
I've got like goldfish brain.
So, yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk about is, can we talk about, not necessarily about the movie, but, what the movie subject matter. And yes, it talks about suicide and depression. There's that
Sure.
almost common thread that's in a lot of horror movies, obviously, these days.
Yep.
But can we talk about, you have a child, they're being bullied, and, it almost falls on the, as a man who's never had children myself,
right.
In a way, I'm almost like, thank God, because if I had a child and somebody fucked with them, I'd be in prison. I really would. It's like, what the fuck? And this is where Helen comes from. Helen she did do things the right way for a long time.
Right. She wrote the letters. She went to the town. She talked to people. She tried to motivate and get people to stop this bullying of her daughter. And this is so what I liked a lot about this is this event happened in 1980, not 1809. With the witchiest witch and the killed the witch and the thing and she's haunting the town. This happened in 1980 to a woman whose child was bullied to the point of suicide. And
did it happen in 1980? Because the council meeting happened in 1980. And when did they redraw the lines? Did they redraw the lines after Helen Foster went on her killing spree, or because the town documents were sealed in the 50s?
Right, but didn't she kill all the town's members in that meeting in the 80s? Because
I thought it was just the three judges there, and see, this movie does warrant a second watch through.
It might. This might be the lowest rated film by me that I watch a second time because I really just want to get it all.
I am curious, and to the point where I want to map it out, and I want to map out the timeline.
Yeah,
and that is a credit to what Stephen Cognetti did here. Is he makes something that you want to invest in.
Yeah. I mean, once again, the story was excellent.
Yeah, good, fantastic concept.
Yeah, I can't expand on that anymore. I can't diminish that at all.
So Stephen Cognetti, for effort, you absolutely nailed it. I can't speak for Nate, but I know I would happily show up on your set and work for free just to nitpick and, ask for an extra 5 minutes here and there.
Yeah, if you want a guy to sit around and tell you if your ideas are good or bad, I mean, I am really good at that. And I'll do it for free.
There was, I think it was an episode of Breaking Bad I just watched. Vince, whatever the showrunner's name was, and he was talking about how, they had a director, not Ryan Johnson, who directed one of the best episodes of Breaking Bad ever. Give credit where credit is due. There was a female director, I don't know her name, and somebody on set, I think it was like a set designer or one of the construction guys, whatever. He said, what would have been really funny if, Aaron Paul says this. And the director heard it because it was a funny line. And she stayed and she said, no, guys, set back up, which on a set's expensive. Uh-huh. And they spent the extra, whatever it took to get that on shot. And that's what is in the final product that us as the audience saw. That's what Stephen Cognetti needed. He needed that guy. Tom Hardy talks about it all the time. I'm sure other people have talked about it. Sometimes the best idea can come from the wardrobe guy, the props guy, the key grip, whoever it is. And you're working toward the best idea at any given moment. And,
right.
So Stephen had amazing idea after amazing idea after amazing idea. But making movies is a collaborative process. And he just needed somebody who wasn't a sycophant, who wasn't a yes man, who could actually offer something else and take a little bit of the burden off of his shoulders and offer something else.
Yeah.
And that rounding out of the movie would have drove it home.
Yeah, like listen, man, you already wrote it, so just sit back and direct. Let me handle the minutia of like whether or not we should shoot that again because they didn't quite get it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Although I did just describe what a director does. So all right.
Again, when you see the number of production houses in the beginning and you reverse engineer it despite not wanting to, you know how much passion and effort went into Scrap and Claude and get this movie made. So kudos
Right.
for that.
Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
100%. Trust your audience and trust your team a little bit more next time. But you know, I think he got that, and I'm really looking forward to the next project. See what he shows us.
Well, for A2825 Forest Road and Stephen Cognetti, it's an A for effort, but a 5 for me.
It's a 4 for me, but there were moments in this movie that honestly hit a 6 or a 7. It's a 4 with 6 and 7 moments. So I want to give it a 5, but gonna stick to the 4 because you just didn't get me hooked long enough.
Right. And I am the boss, HOS4A2, with the podcast for the recently deceased, BasementMedia.Online.
I'm Stephen Anthony. Check me out at dogclawstudios.com.
And we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.